दरवाजा बंद कीजिए। मैम किससे जाएगा बाथरूम? दरवाजा भी बंद कीजिए।
Okay, so who is group 1? Can we start with group 1? Please share your screen. Please show your output. So this is a culmination of our activity for the year. So you are expected that by the end of the year, you are able to be public speakers and pick up your advocacies with regards to a public health issue. So we will see the public health issues that you have chosen and we will see in this session. Okay, group 1, can you start? Good afternoon, Doc El Ray.
Hi, ma'am. Good afternoon. I'm actually here in my dentist. Sorry.
It's
Good
okay.
afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, doctor.
Good afternoon. Or whoever group is ready, you may share your screen, not necessarily group 1. So we could start. Since we have a lot of groups.
Doctor, actually, we don't know about the live session. Like, we thought you are going to give a feedback about our videos, but we don't have any confirmation about this work. So can you please give us a 5 to 10 minutes time to prepare all our videos to share our screens?
Google Drive. He sent me in Google Drives.
Yeah, doctor, we already sent our videos in MS Teams, doctor. We already posted.
Let me try to retrieve it. But prepare your videos while I am looking for it.
Okay, doctor.
Is it in the file section, Shiva?
Yes, doctor. It's in the file section. In the name of PMCH 3 video, doctor.
All right. I'll be the one to share screen then with.
Okay, doctor.
Okay, so this one is group 2. And it's on chlamydia. Okay. So please watch so that you could comment, so that you could give your comments with regards to the video that has just been presented.
Good day, everyone. This is PMCH Group 2, and we are going to discuss about Chlamydia Tachometers. Chlamydia Tachometers is most common to sexually transmitted infection. It causes ocular and genital infection known as lymphogranuloma validia. It affects both women and men, and it mostly in young people. It can cause serious consequences that include pelvic inflammatory disease and can cause permanent reproductive system damage, chronic pelvic pain, ectopic pregnancy in women. It is also known as silent disease because it is mostly asymptomatic. It is transmitted through direct contact to the infected membrane, and a newborn can get this disease from the infected mother. It is the most common cause of neonatal conjunctivitis, affecting 2 to 6% of infants. The route of infection is through vaginal, oral, and anal sex. It is possible that a pregnant woman can spread chlamydia to their children during delivery, causing pneumonia and serious eye infection in the newborn. Moving ahead to the statistic, 127 million cases were reported in 2016. It is higher in women, varied from 1.1% to 10%, then men varied from 0.1 to 12.1%. Among youth, it is more prevalent. It is most common in black female than in white. Who is at risk for chlamydial infection? Sexually active women aged between 14 to 24 years, unprotected sexual intercourse with multiple sexual partners within brief time, lack of barrier contraceptives, history of sexually transmitted disease, history of chlamydial infection, anatomic structure of reproductive organs in teenage girls and young women, that is, presence of cervical ectopy, men having sex with men, poor socioeconomic background, nulliparity, black race. Symptoms of chlamydial infection mostly present as silent or are asymptomatic. Symptoms appear several weeks after sexual intercourse with the affected partner. Symptomatic women may present with cervicitis, that is mucopurulent endocervical discharge that can be yellow, cloudy, or odorless, easily induced endocervical bleeding. Next can be urethritis, that is presenting as dysuria, urinary frequency, pyuria. Then next, acute pelvic inflammatory disease, which may occur due to spread of infection from cervix to upper reproductive tract. Presentation may be abdominal or pelvic pain with high fever, cervical motion tenderness, PE revealing uterine and adnexal tenderness, pain during intercourse, and intermenstrual bleeding. Symptomatic men may present with mucoid or watery urethral discharge seen in the morning before void, dysuria, that is burning sensation when urinating, epididymitis, pain and swelling in one or both testicles. Men and women which are involved in anal sex can experience rectal pain, discharge, and bleeding. Infected with genital secretion, present with chlamydial conjunctivitis.
Now let's look at the complications. In males, without treatment, it can lead to or increase the risk of prostatitis, scarring of the urethra, infertility, epididymitis or epididymorchitis, and reactive arthritis. In females, it can cause pelvic inflammatory diseases, tubal factor infertility, ectopic pregnancies, chronic pelvic pain, and reactive arthritis. In pregnant women, it can cause preterm deliveries, ophthalmia neonatorum, and pneumonia in the newborn. You might as who should be tested for chlamydia infection. First, sexually active women, ages of 25 or younger. The rate of chlamydial infection is highest in this group, so a yearly screening test is recommended. Even if the subject has been tested in the past years, get tested when you have a new sex partner. Pregnant women should also be tested for chlamydial infections during their first prenatal exam. If they have a high risk of infection from changing sex partners or because of a regular partner might be infected, they should be tested again later in their pregnancy. Women and men at high risk, people who have multiple sexual partners who don't always use condoms, or men who have sex with men should consider frequent chlamydial screening. Moving on with the diagnosis, it can be diagnosed by using two tests. A urine test, a sample of the urine is analyzed in the lab for presence of this infection, or a swab test. In women, the doctor takes a swab of the discharge from the cervix for culture or antigen testing for chlamydia. This can be done during a routine pap smear test. Some women prefer to swab their vaginas themselves, which has been shown to be as diagnostic as a doctor-obtained swab. For men, the doctor inserts a slim swab into the end of the penis to get a sample from the urethra. In some cases, the doctor will swab the end.
Let's get to the treatment now. Chlamydial infection is susceptible to antibiotics such as tetracycline, macrolides, and quinolanes that interfere with DNA and protein synthesis. Some of the antibiotics in chlamydial infection are doxycycline 100 mg orally twice a day for 7 days is ideally given. Azithromycin given as a single 1 gram dose is as effective as a 7-day course of doxycycline. And amoxicillin is the recommended drug of choice for pregnant women. It is important to take all of these medications prescribed to cure chlamydia and should not be shared with anyone. Although medication will cure the infection, it will not repair any permanent damage done by the disease. If a person's symptoms continue for more than a few days after receiving the treatment, he or she should return to a healthcare provider to be re-evaluated. To help get partners treated quickly, expedited partner therapy is practiced in some states. Healthcare providers give infected individuals extra medicine or prescription to give their sex partners. Clinical trials have been promising in achieving fewer persistent or recurrent chlamydial infections. For providers, this therapy represents an additional strategy for partner management of persons with chlamydial infection, and partners should still be encouraged to seek medical evaluation regardless of whether they receive this therapy. Should partners of the affected person be treated? Of course. Anyone diagnosed and treated for chlamydia has an obligation to inform their recent anal, vaginal, or oral sex partners to seek immediate medical attention. The requirements are sex partners of affected persons should be notified within 60 days before the onset of symptoms or diagnosis to avoid complication and risk of reinfection. Avoid sexual activity until the duration of treatment completion, that is 7 days after single dose or 7-day course of antibiotic and until symptoms subsides. As we say, prevention is better than cure. The surest way to prevent chlamydial infection is to abstain from sexual activity. Latex male condom or a polyurethane female condom should be used during each sexual contact, and condoms should be used properly during every sexual encounter, and they reduce but don't eliminate the risk of infection. Limit the number of sexual partners, get regular screenings for sexually transmitted diseases, avoid dosing as it decreases the number of good bacteria in the vagina, which can increase the risk of infection, and patients should be educated on the likelihood of recurrence and the importance of practicing safe sexual activity. Indulge in safer sex practices such as limit your partners, get tested, talk to your partners, avoid drugs or alcohol, and educate yourself. Identifying asymptomatic infections can prevent lifelong health complications. So I conclude by saying, let's end the trade and stop the spread. This was Group 2 signing off. Thank you.
Okay, so that is chlamydia. I understand that we have limitations as far as as far as the assignment goes, because asking you to make a video wherein you cannot meet each other and it's not safe to go outside, we understand that this is the best that we could do. But please remember that your audience in a public health lecture would not be your co-doctors or medical people that are familiar with jargon, but you are educating people who are not familiar with the language. Okay? Dr. Navarro, comment while I start the next group. I think Dr. Navarro's disconnected. Okay, so let's see the next.
Nutrition are essential for the growth and metabolism of our body. The health of our body depends on the adequate nutrients which are supplied to our body. Nutrients are of two types, macronutrients and micronutrients. Micronutrients are the nutrients which are required in less quantity, and macronutrients are the nutrients which are required in high quantity. Under macronutrients, there are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. And under micronutrients, there are vitamins and minerals. And fats are divided into unsaturated fats and saturated fats. And vitamins are divided into fat-soluble vitamins and water-soluble vitamins. Under fat-soluble vitamins, there is vitamin A, D, E, and K. And under water-soluble vitamins, there are vitamin C and D. And under minerals, there are trace minerals and major minerals. Under trace minerals, there is iron, zinc, copper, manganese, chloride, and iodine. And under major minerals, there are calcium, phosphorus, sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, and sulfur. Now, coming to fats. Fats are essential for many functions of the body, even for other nutrients to work. It is an energy source and also protects the skeleton and the nerves. Fats are divided into saturated and unsaturated fats. Saturated and trans fats can raise bad cholesterol level like LDL, which are dangerous to health, whereas the unsaturated fats support health by providing good cholesterol like HDL, and these divided into monosaturated and polysaturated fats. So there are various functions of fats, like they provide energy, they keep the body warm, they help in brain development, they protect the internal organs, they support the absorption of vitamins, and also secrete hormones. There are different types of fats. First one, the saturated fats. Under saturated fats, there are vegetable fats and animal fats. Under vegetable fats, there are things like coconut, palm oil, beverages, creamer, and condensed milk. And under animal fats, there's poultry skin, butter, ghee, and fatty. And under trans fats, there is hydrogenated vegetable oil, fast foods, cakes, chocolates, fried foods. And coming to unsaturated fats, is divided into monosaturated and polysaturated fats. Under monosaturated, there is olive oil, canola oil, peanut oil, sesame oil, avocado oil. And under polysaturated, there is corn oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, seeds, salt, or fish. Now, the dietary recommendation. The total fat in male should be 70 grams, while in female it should be 56 grams. The saturated fat in male should not be more than 21 grams, and in female should not be more than 17 grams. The trans fat should not be more than 2 grams in both male and female.
Carbohydrates. What are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are the sugars, starch, and fibers found in the fruits, grain, vegetables, and meat products. To obtain malignant diets, carbohydrates, one of the basic food groups, are important to a healthy diet. Classification of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are classified according to the number of subunits that make up them. There are 4 types of carbohydrates: monosaccharides, disaccharides, oligosaccharides, polysaccharides. Classification of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are classified into monosaccharides, disaccharides, oligosaccharides, polysaccharides. Monosaccharides, erythroids, ribose, glucose, disaccharides, sucrose, lactose, oligosaccharides, maltose, polysaccharides are starch, cellulose, dextrine, and dextrine. About 60% of food in our diet consists of carbohydrates. The body breakdown crabs into sugars, glucose. Glucose is absorbed into bloodstream, which makes the sugar levels into blood group. As sugar levels rise in the body, the pancreas releases a hormone called insulin. Insulin is needed to move glucose from the body to cell where it can be used as source of energy. Sources of carbohydrates: dairy, milk, yogurt, and ice cream; fruit, whole fruit and fruit juice, grains, bread, rice, crackers, and cereals; lithium, beans, and other plant-based products; starchy vegetables, potatoes, and corn. Benefits: energy for the body, helps helps to sleep better, helps to prevent disease, useful to control weight, helps to keep memory short of its mood, provide fibers to the body, prevent blood clots, improves the digestive system, with nutrient for athletics. Thank you.
Protein is an important part of the healthy diet. Proteins are made up of chemical building blocks called amino acids. Your body uses amino acids to build and repair muscles and bones and to make hormones and enzymes. They can also be used as an energy source. You can easily meet your daily protein needs by following the Australian dietary guidelines. Most Australians get more than enough protein from foods alone. Very high protein diets are not recommended. Protein is an ingredient your body needs to grow and replace. Protein is found in a wide range of foods and it's important that you get enough protein in your diet every day. How much protein you need from your diet varies depending on your weight, gender, age, meeting your protein needs is easily achieved from eating a variety of foods. Protein comes from plant and animal foods such as meats and fish, eggs, dairy products, nuts and vegetables, like meats and grains.
Now let's discuss vitamins. Vitamins are essential organic nutrients required in small amounts. They cannot be synthesized by the body and must be obtained from outside sources like diet, human bacteria, and sun. It is required for growth, maintenance, reproduction, and lactation. Classes of vitamins. There are two classes of vitamins. One is the fat-soluble vitamins, and the other is the water-soluble vitamins. Under fat-soluble vitamins, there are vitamin A, D, E, and K, and these are stored in tissues. Whereas in water-soluble vitamins, they are not stored in tissues and must have constant supply. Examples: niacin, folic acid, vitamin B1, B2, B3, etc. Coming to vitamin A, it also called retinol. Benefits of vitamin A are: it promotes good vision, promotes healthy growth, maintenance of bones, maintenance of teeth, health in cell structure, and deficiency leads to xerophthalmia, night blindness, retarded growth in young people. The sources are foods like broccoli, watermelon, kiwi, carrot, coriander, apples, etc. Coming to vitamin D, it helps boost immune system and helps build bones and teeth, but also helps in absorption of calcium and also decrease anemia. Deficiency leads to osteoporosis, retarded growth, weakness, and anemia. The sources of vitamin D are milk, soy, pure egg, fish liver oil, and post crops. Coming to vitamin E, benefits of vitamin E are: they provide cell protection and act as antioxidants. They protect the eyesight and give good immune system. The deficiency causes nerve and muscle damage and weak immune system and anemia and impaired reflex. Sources are vegetable oil, whole grains, green leafy vegetables, seeds, and nuts. Vitamin K helps in blood clotting of the blood and bone metabolism, and also regulates blood calcium level. Deficiency leads to poor blood clotting, inadequate absorption, insufficient dietary intake, bruising, and increased risk of osteoporosis. Sources are green leafy vegetables, fishes, banana, soybeans, and onion. Vitamin D helps in growth of RBC, good eyesight, good digestion, proper nerve function, and healthy appetite. Deficiency leads to fatty, spicy, diarrhea, dementia, and pernicious anemia. Sources are legumes, eggs, milk, corn, and fish. Folic acid helps in cell division and also acidic formation, and they also prevent some cancer. Deficiency leads to anemia, digestive disorder, headache, pale skin, and diabetes. Sources are dark green vegetables, beans, peas, avocado, orange, etc.
Minerals are found in food like cereal, bread, meat, fish, milk, dairy nuts, fruits, especially dry fruits and vegetables. Minerals are such an important part of our diet. As balanced diet usually provides all of the essential minerals, the two tables below list minerals, what they do in the body, their function and their sources in food. Table salt, soy sauce, large amount in processed food, small amount in milk, bread, vegetables, and unprocessed meats. The most essential minerals of human body are calcium, magnesium, zinc, phosphorus, iron, selenium, potassium, and copper. The opposite mineral items are rich in nuts, beans, dark leafy vegetables, fish, seeds, mushrooms, shellfish, whole grain, beef, and lamb. Dry products that are low in fat, whole grain, cheese, and dry fruits, as well as tofu.
Water, the universal solvent. It lubricates the joint, it forms saliva and mucus, it delivers oxygen throughout the body. It loosens the brain, spinal cord, and other sensitive tissues. It regulates the body temperature. The digestive system depends on it. It flushes out the body waste. It makes minerals and nutrients accessible. Uses of water resources. Around 60% of the body is made up of water, and around 71% of the planet's surface is covered by water. The water is essential for kidneys and other bodily functions. When dehydrated, the skin can become more vulnerable to skin disorders and wrinkling. The water's effect on the body. It protects the body organs and helps in constipation. When dehydrated, You might notice your energy levels plummet as water helps keep your mind alert and body balanced. If you're not drinking plenty during the day, that afternoon slump will hit even harder, and you might feel too tired to continue on with the work or make it to your evening workout. Keep a water bottle on your hand to remind you to consistently drink throughout the day. If you don't stay hydrated, the physical performance can suffer. Your brain is strongly influenced by your hydration status.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that is nutrition and how important nutrition is for our general. So those are important things that we have to take note of. While I'm opening the next file, your LO has sent to you MS forms, so please don't forget to fill that up because that's your attendance for this afternoon. Okay. So this one would be on cholera.
Hello everyone, our topic for today is cholera. Cholera is a bacterial disease which causes severe diarrhea and dehydration. It is also known as a forgotten disease and it affects mostly the forgotten people of the world. And it is the main cause of the epidemic diarrhea in the developing countries. As we can see, for the last 4 decades, there is ongoing global pandemic in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Next, cholera remains a global threat to the public health and it is an indicator of inequity and lack of social development. As we have said earlier, cholera is a bacterial disease and it causes severe diarrhea. It causes severe diarrhea when the person is infected with the vibrio cholera. When a person ingests contaminated food or water with vibrio cholera, they develop an infection in the intestine and which leads to diarrhea. This cholera causes severe diarrhea and if the diarrhea persists, it will lead to dehydration and dehydration will eventually may lead to death. Next, for the epidemiology, if we look back into the history, during the 19th century, the region's original reservoir in Gang, Delta, India, and 6 subsequent pandemics killed around millions of people all across all other continents. And according to WHO, there are researchers estimated that every year there are roughly 1.3 to 4 million cases and 21,000 to 143,000 deaths worldwide due to cholera. The number of cholera cases reported to WHO has continued to increase over the last few years, and during 2019 there are around 923,037 cases and 1911 deaths were notified from across 31 countries. And this cholera can be both epidemic and endemic. When we say an endemic, cholera endemic area, this is an area where there are confirmed cases detected during the last 3 years, which with local transmission. That means they have developed cholera locally, but not elsewhere from any other region. There is local transmission. When we talk about Vibrio cholera, it is a gram-negative facultative anaerobic commercial bacteria. These bacteria live naturally in brackish or salt water, and where they attach themselves to chitin-containing shells of crabs, shrimps, and other shellfishes. Humans consume these shellfishes, crabs, undercooked or raw marine species. Humans can develop cholera due to Vibrio cholerae. And there are some distinguishing factors such as oxidase positive motile via polar flagellum and both respiratory and fermented metabolism. Next, we'll go to pathophysiology. For the pathophysiology, and this cholera, it has two pathogenic serotypes, which includes Vibrio cholerae O1 and O139. As we have discussed earlier, the transmission of cholera is due to fecal oral route. Once the Vibrio cholerae has entered into humans, it has to survive against the host defensive mechanism such as gastric acidity, intestinal inhibitory factors, and changes in temperature and osmolarity. Once the bacteria has survived against these host defense mechanisms, it will start colonizing. It will start colonizing into small intestine of the humans, and it will use its flagella to propagate through the mucous layer of the small intestine, and it will bind to the cells of the small intestine, and it will start to produce toxins using its TCP, toxin coagulated virus, and it forms a biofilms. After these toxins are produced, these toxins now will bind to the G protein coupled receptor, and it will lead to the inactivation of G2-based protein, and it causes the G protein to stuck in on position, and which increases the CAMP activation of ion channels. As a result, there is more influx of NaCl and more and more water coming into the intestinal lumen. As water starts coming into the intestinal lumen, it now causes diarrhea.
Symptoms of cholera infection can include diarrhea. Diarrhea-like pale, milky appearance that resembles water in which rice has been rinsed, nausea and vomiting, and dehydration. A loss of 10% or more of body weight indicates severe dehydration, irritability, fatigue, sunken eyes, and dry mouth. An extreme thirst, dry skin, little or no urinating, low blood pressure, and an irregular heartbeat. Most people exposed to cholera bacterium don't become ill and are asymptomatic, but shed bacteria in their stool for 7 to 14 days. They can still infect others through contaminated water. Transmission. Ingestion of food or water contaminated directly or indirectly. Everyone is susceptible to cholera with the exception of infants who get immunity from nursing mothers who have previously had cholera. Risk factors. Poor sanitary conditions, rain in developed countries conditions, undercooked food, people with low levels of stomach acid, hypochlorhydria. Reasons aren't entirely clear. Type O blood. Complications. Hypotension, hypovolemic shock, coma, renal failure, electrolyte imbalance, hyperkalemia, hyponatremia, hypocalcemia occasionally. Metabolic acidosis, hypoglycemia, death. Cholera can quickly become fatal. In most severe cases, rapid loss of fluid and electrolytes can lead to death within hours. Diagnosis. Isolation and identification of Vibrio cholerae serogroup O1 and O139 by culture of a stool specimen remains the gold standard. Carry Blair media for transport and the selective thiosulfate citrate bile salts agar for isolations and identifications. Commercially available rapid test kits are used in epidemic settings. Vibrios often detected by dark field or phase contrast microscopy of stool appearance like shooting stars. Additional methods of detection include PCR and monoclonal antibody stool kit tests.
Now we will be looking into the treatment plans of cholera. Cholera is self-limited usually, so we should actually focus
dehydration therapy, which is the basic level of treatment for all the patients. And in severe cases, we could give them antibiotic treatment, which will actually reduce the fluid requirements and duration of the illness. And also, zinc treatment has been shown to help improve the cholera symptoms in the children. Now, let's move on to the prevention plan. Prevention can be done through basic health education and hygiene. We could actually give certain ideas such as using safe water to drink, and you should prepare your food, everything with proper hygiene. We should frequently wash our hands with our soap, and also we should cook the food well if it is a seafood or meat, and we should clean up the kitchen as soon as we are done with the work. Basically, we can also offer vaccine options, which is parental vaccine, and that is not recommended, like not usually recommended, but 2 doses can be administered 2 weeks apart. The efficacy of the approximately is 50%, and it hardly exceeds 6 months. Killed WBC or killed vaccine that has mild side effects, and it is also safe in pregnancy and breastfeeding. The efficacy is 50% after 3 years. Live attenuated vaccine is unknown efficacy for children under 2, and there are no adverse effects found until now. WHO pre-qualifies the oral cholera vaccines such as like Dukoral, Shankol, and Unicol. And Indian cholera vaccine, Shankol, produces only 53% protection after 2 doses. A single dose of vaccine presents with 66% of protection against cholera. So let's look into the prognosis. It actually depends upon the severity of the dehydration and also how quickly the patient responds to it. But usually the mortality rates are less, but it can be high as 50% to 60% during larger outbreaks. And also the treatments are heavily accepted and encouraged. When the prevention and the control, we could look into the treatment centers for prompt treatment. Sanitary measurements are taken. Food safety and animal health measures are extremely encouraged, and also comprehensive surveillance would help as well. So thank you, friends, and I hope that you understand this topic clearly after this video.
Okay. Also, one of the preventable diseases, especially with the advent of your vaccines and your medicines, cholera. So another disease entity that is important. Okay, let's have our next.
Filariasis is the disease caused by infection with an worms. These are spread by mosquitoes and flies, which are present in southern Asia, Africa, etc., and only present in northern hemisphere, where the temperature is very low. The groups of filariasis divide according to the body parts they affect. Serous cavity filariasis, which affect the serous cavity of abdomen, caused by Manzanella persistens. Lymphatic filariasis, which affect the lymphatic system, caused by Ochorilla bantam. Subcutaneous filariasis, which affect under the skin, caused by Loa. Lymphatic filariasis is the first disease discovered to be transmitted by the mosquito. Lymphatic filariasis symptoms include edema with thickening of the skin and underlying tissue. Elephantiasis affects mainly the lower extremities, while the ears, mucous membrane, and amputation stunts are affected frequently. Less frequent.
Filariasis in the Philippines. Within Philippines, areas endemic for lymphatic filariasis are regions with the highest incidence of poverty. Out of a total of 79 provinces, 39 have a higher poverty incidence than the national average, and 30 of these 39 provinces are endemic for lymphatic filariasis. Filariasis in the world. Lymphatic filariasis filariasis affects over 120 million people in 72 countries throughout the tropics and subtropics of Asia, Africa, and Western Pacific, and parts of Caribbean and Southern. This is a graph of number of people affected to treated in the world from 2000 to 2009. As you can see in the graph, from 2001, it started increasing. In 2004, number of cases increased alarmingly, but the number of people who were getting the treatment is half. This trend continues to 2007, but people who get treated is increasing thanks to the intervention of public awareness of government all over the world and from the activities of WHO. In 2008, we can see decrease in people getting affected and increase in treatment, but this is not enough. Comparing this graph with number of people affected in the region of Philippines, we can understand that cases are less in metropolitan cities than in rural villages, which is still there. WHO response: World Health Facility distribution increases member states to lymphatic filariasis as a public health problem. In response, WHO launched its global program to eliminate lymphatic filariasis in 2000. Districts in which lymphatic filariasis is endemic must be mapped and community-wide mass treatment programs implemented to treat the entire at-risk population. Most of these programs are based on once-yearly administration of single doses of 2 drugs given to them. Now, we'll talk about the life cycle. You know, the disease is caused by Diarrhea bankruptcy, but the vector for that is mosquito. This nematode spends half of its life in mosquito and in human being. Imagine we are outside in the ground or in our home when the mosquito bites us. The parasitic worm larvae are transmitted when an infected female mosquito feeds on human blood. During feeding, the larvae emerge from the mosquito's mouthparts onto the person's skin. The larvae penetrate the skin through the bite wound. From here, the larvae migrate to the lymphatic system, a network of tubes that branch throughout the body carrying lymph. Within 9 to 14 days of infection, the larvae transform into elongated forms. Within 6 to 12 months, the larvae grow into mature male and female adult forms. The adult will mate in the lymphatic vessels. The female worms release a large number of tiny, immature larvae called microfilariae. It will migrate to bloodstream. From there, it can transfer to a mosquito when it feeds on human blood. The ingested microfilariae make their way to the mosquito's stomach and pour into the flight muscles. From there, larvae grows to infectious stage and migrates to mosquito's mouthpart. When this infected mosquito feeds on a human being, this infected larvae is transferred. Then this cycle continues as one host mosquito and one host human being. So it's important to eradicate mosquito by not allowing stagnant water in tires, buckets, and canals. And during rainy season, provide albendazole to everyone.
The best way to prevent lymphatic fibrosis is to avoid mosquito bites. The mosquitoes that carry the microscopic worms usually bite between the hours of dawn and dusk. If you live in an area with lymphatic fibrosis, at night, sleep in an air conditioner room. Sleep under a mosquito net. Between dawn and dusk, wear long sleeves and trousers. Use mosquito repellents on exposed skin. Another approach to prevention includes giving entire communities medicine that kills the microscopic worms and controlling mosquitoes. Annual mass treatment reduces the level of microfilaria in the blood and thus diminishes transmission of infection. This is the basis of the global program to eliminate lymphatic filariasis is a public health problem in underway. The elimination strategy is based on annual treatment of whole communities with combination of drugs that kill the microfilaria. As a result of the generous confusion of these drugs by the companies that make them, hundreds of millions of people are being treated each year. Since these drugs are also reduced level of infection with intestinal worms, Benefits of treatment extended beyond lymphatic filariasis. Such campaigns to eliminate lymphatic filariasis has taken place in China and other countries. Management, maintenance of good hygiene of affected parts prevents the worsening of lymphedema and secondary bacterial infections. The affected limbs should be kept under elevated and regular exercises should be done to improve the lymphatic regime of treatment of filariasis is mass drug administration. In this single dose of two medicines are given together. Albendazole with either ivermectin, a single in area where onchorasis is also endemic, or diethyl carboxamide citrate in area where onchorasis is not endemic. These medicines clear microfilaria from bloodstreams. Through lymphatic filariasis is treatment with medicine. There is a persistent normal enlargement of body parts causing pain and severe disability. Associated with social stamina makes patients to suffer mentally, socially and financially. Elimination of lymphatic filariasis is possible by stopping the spread of infection with mass drug administration and protection from mosquito bites and vector control measures.
Okay, thank you. So that is filariasis for you, another important disease entity that we should know. Actually, it's one of the diseases of public health importance. Okay.
Welcome. This is Group 11's PMCH presentation where we discuss some common questions related to the convalescent plasma donation for COVID-19 infections and some related myths and facts. So what is plasma therapy? For that, we first have to discuss what are antibodies and what do they do? Antibodies are Y-shaped proteins produced by B cells of the immune system to help fight bacteria and viruses. Each type carries receptors for specific threats and secretes antibodies that bind to the antigens found on the surface of pathogens. When a B cell encounters its matching antigen, it pumps out distinct antibodies that can neutralize harmful invaders or mark them for destruction by other immune system cells like the T cells. What is convalescent plasma? Convalescent is anyone recovering from a disease, and plasma is the yellow liquid part of the blood that contains antibodies. So plasma from patients who have already recovered from COVID-19 contains antibodies against the virus. Giving this convalescent plasma to critical patients with a COVID-19 infection helps them fight off the infection with better odds until one's own immune system starts up, since it generally takes 1 to 3 weeks for the immune system to produce antibodies against COVID-19. In the current scenario, the potential use of CP may be prioritized in the following settings: post-exposure prophylaxis for the healthcare workers, post-exposure prophylaxis of individuals with comorbidities at higher risk of severe illness, treatment of symptomatic individuals with moderate disease, especially in the first week of illness.
Why should plasma be donated? Plasma therapy has shown to shorten the length of illness, reduce the severity of the disease, and result in a better prognosis by preventing permanent lung damage and complications of acute respiratory distress. Of the 526 patients who were given convalescent blood plasma, 429 have so far recovered, showing good results with the experimental treatment for COVID-19 at 17 different hospitals in Manila, Philippines, as reported by the FDA director. How can plasma be donated? Donation of plasma is done by plasmapheresis, in which the plasma is separated from the blood cells and collected, after which your blood is circulated back into you. Up to 15% of total blood volume, 400 to 800 ml per session, can be safely donated in a single sitting. Plasma donation from one person can be used to fight COVID in up to 2 patients. Recommendations allow for serial plasma donations with monitoring of hemoglobin, total protein and albumin by a single donor with a minimum gap of 7 days between consecutive plasmapheresis sessions.
Who can donate? Any healthy adult who is above 18 years old but less than 65 years of age, weighing more than 50 kg, with a previous confirmed diagnosis of COVID-19 by RT-PCR within 120 days from day of donation. The donor should have evidence of recovery by resolution of symptoms and negative source specimen with RT-PCR. The donor should not be suffering from diabetes or hypertension. The donor should be negative for any transfusion transmissible infections like hepatitis B, C, HIV, syphilis, and malaria. Women without previous pregnancy are eligible for donation. Donors should have no medical history of any thyroid disorders, and they should not have had the COVID-19 vaccine.
Before the donated convalescent plasma can be donated amongst patients, the donor's plasma has to be matched to the patient using the ABO compatibility system. Plasma component should be compatible with the ABO group of the recipient to avoid potential hemolysis caused by the donor anti-A or anti-B. Blood group A and B type individuals can accept plasma from AB individuals because blood group AB type will not have any antibodies in their blood. Blood group AB type can accept plasma from only AB type because it is the only plasma without anti-A and anti-B antibodies in it. Rh negative individual can accept plasma from Rh positive individual because there are no anti-Rh antibodies present naturally in plasma. In blood transfusion, and to be specific for red cell transfusion, AB is universal acceptor and O is universal donor. But in plasma transfusion, AB is universal donor and O is universal acceptor.
Myths and facts. Some popular myths related to plasma donation and the truths about them. Plasma donation is dangerous and has many adverse effects. False. Plasma donation is safe and regulated by trained professionals throughout the entire screening and donation process. Some short-term side effects might include dizziness and fatigue due to dehydration. Because plasma is made up of 90% water, to limit these side effects, donors are encouraged to stay hydrated both before and after donation. Number 2, donating plasma will reduce my antibody level and make me more susceptible to infections in the future. False. Donating plasma does not affect a person's immunity as only plasma is taken from the blood, while the white and red blood cells are flushed back into your system.
In the clinical setting, a cardinal principle is that earlier use in the course of illness is expected to be more beneficial. The hypothesized mechanism of action of CP is by prevention or delay in the establishment of infection, long enough to allow the host immune response to clear the infection. Despite the widespread use and publicity of CP, it remains an experimental therapy. Conclusive proof of its efficacy and the parameter of its effective use remains to be firmly established. In such a situation, it is advisable to use CP only under a research protocol after discussing the experimental nature and potential risk of CP use with the recipient.
What was your source video? It's good that you acknowledge their work. I appreciate that you try to do as much as you can with regards to the public health video. It's this is what I've been telling you, that it's not a lecture type, but it shows you a little snippet on what to do with regards a certain public health issue. In this case, plasma donation. Right? It encourages you to give your blood to your COVID-19 patients. So that was their goal, and it was clearly stated. So good job.
So guys, the topic for that is the asthma. And in this presentation, we'll see what is the asthma and what are the symptoms and the risk factor, and what are the types and the diagnosis and the treatment of the asthma. So let's get started now. So what is the asthma? Asthma is the lung disorder that interferes with the breathing, and is a condition in which person's airways become inflamed, narrow, and swell, and it produces the mucus that which cause breathing problem. So the relevance about the asthma. It's globally and currently affect nearly 300 million people worldwide with 250k deaths annually. It affects 10 to 12% of adults and 50% of the children. Asthma is a symptom characterized by airflow obstruction that varies slightly, both spontaneously and with the treatment. Asthmatics harbor a special type of inflammation in the airways. It leads to excessive narrowing with the consequent reduced airflow and the symptomatic breathing and dyspnea. Asthma is a heterogeneous disease with several phenotypes and recognized. So what do the lungs feel like with the asthma? So if we have asthma or respiratory condition that causes the breathing difficulty, and you might experience chest pain. And this symptoms is common like during the asthma attack. And the discomfort may feel like a dull, sharp, or the stabbing pain. And some people describe it as if they have a paralytic sitting on their chest. So what are the symptoms of asthma? So the person may have the coughing, wheezing, or the tightness in the chest, and then shortness of breath, and the trouble sleeping, and which caused by the shortness of breath and wheezing and coughing. And coughing and wheezing, and that are the worsened by the respiratory virus such as cold and flu. So what are the risk factors of asthma? The exit cause of asthma is not known. It's thought that the variety of factors interacting with one another early in the life and the result in the development of the asthma. It can be a genetic. If a parent or sibling has asthma, you are more likely to develop it. Atrophy and the childhood respiratory infection and the history of exposure to allergen or the infection. There are several types of asthma. So let's start with the occupational asthma. It's the asthma that caused by the breathing of chemical things, gases, dust, or other substance on the job. It can result from an exposure to a substance that you are sensitive to, causing an allergic response to a toxic substance. So the next one is the drug-induced asthma. So the beta blocker can be very important preventive care medication, but the several pharmacologic drugs provoke the symptoms such as the aspirin and the pain medication. So the patient may suffer with the recurrent rhinitis, nasal polyps, and the bronchospasm. So next one is the exercise-induced asthma. So the exercise-induced asthma is the narrowing of the airways in the lungs triggered by the strenuous exercise. It can cause the shortness of breathing, wheezing, coughing, and other symptoms during or after the exercise. And among the people with asthma, exercise is likely just one of the several factors that can trigger the breathing difficulties. And most people with exercise-induced the bronchoconstriction can continue to exercise and remain active by treating the symptoms with the asthma medication and taking the preventive measures. The next one is the allergic asthma. So it's the most common type of the asthma, and it can be triggered by the deep dander from the kids and dog, mold, pollen, dust, and the tobacco smoke. And this type of asthma is the mostly seasonal type of asthma.
Positive emotions can trigger asthma symptoms. Global Initiative for Asthma lists laughter as a main asthma trigger. And a study by the American Thoracic Society revealed that half of the study group found laughter triggered their symptoms. Asthma disparities. Death from asthma is 3 times more likely to occur among blacks than white. Among adults, women of all races have higher rates of illness and death from asthma than men. Rates of hospitalization for asthma for blacks are almost triple those for whites. Worldwide burden of asthma. 300 million people suffer from asthma worldwide. 2,555,000 asthma deaths in 2005. 3,500 in United States. Over 80% of asthma deaths occur in low and lower middle income countries. A rise in asthma mortality seen in several countries during the 1960s was associated with increased use of short-acting inhaled beta-2 adrenergic agonists. Asthma-related deaths occur over 646 in 85 years and above. Diagnosis. There are different types of tests. So it includes lung function test, airway responsiveness, hematologic test that includes serum IgE and specific IgE, imaging, skin prick test. For treatment, while asthma cannot be cured, but it can be controlled. So for that, medications like long-term peak relief, bronchial thermoplasty. On top of that, long-term includes inhaled corticosteroids, glucotrine modifiers, long-acting beta-2 agonists, combination inhalers. So there are 5 steps in treatment. Step 1 includes SABA, that is short-acting beta-2 agonist for the liver only. Then for step 2, so low-dose inhaled corticosteroids, medium high-dose inhaled corticosteroids initially or in periods. Step 2, low-dose ICS plus SABA, low-dose ICS plus LTR, that is glucotrine receptor antagonist. Step 4, medium high-dose ICS plus SABA, ICS plus LABA plus glucotrine receptor antagonist. LTR plus LAMA, that is long-acting anticholinergics. Step 5, anti-IgE or anti-IL or macrolides, phenotype dependent or oral corticosteroids. For liver in step 1 and step 2, that is SABA, and for step 3, step 4 and step 5, that is SABA plus formoterol or ICS plus formoterol. How to avoid asthma? Identify asthma triggers, stay away from allergens, avoid smoke of any type, prevent colds, allergy proof your home, get your vaccinations done as we are doing right now for COVID. Consider immunotherapy, allergy shots, take asthma medications or prescribed. The impact of COVID-19 on patients with asthma. Patients with asthma and COVID-19 were older and at increased risk due to comorbidity-related factors. ICS and biologics are generally safe and may be associated with a protective effect against severe COVID-19 infection. Despite the increased prevalence of hospitalization in elder asthmatic COVID-19 patients, after adjustment for other variables, it was neither associated with increased severity nor worse outcomes. Salamat po. Stay safe.
Some are requesting their videos to be presented. So we will not follow the order. We will start from the last.
We are asked some people about the malaria. Let's go.
Is it my internet or is it the video?
Doctor, I think it's net issue, doctor.
It's the video.
No, doctor, I think it's net issue.
About the malaria? Yes. Can you tell me something about the malaria? Malaria like in fever and okay.
Hello. Sorry, this interview. Can I ask some questions? I'm this is Sarvi. So, do you know about malaria? Yeah. So, how is it? Why do we know? Okay. So, how to? So now can you tell me how to stop malaria from spreading? Nothing much, but I will in my surrounding area and I will also in hospital and in restaurant. Okay, so do you know more about it? No. I'm gonna take your 2 minutes. We are sure. I'm I'm doing a survey on malaria. Would you like to participate? Yeah. What's your name? My name is Sarah. Have you heard about malaria? Yes, I have heard. Can you please share some information about malaria? What you have heard? Mosquito, headache, high fever, and vomiting. That's all. Thanks. Excuse me. Yes. I am Anatole. I'm doing a survey on malaria. Would you like to participate? What's your name? Have you ever heard about malaria symptoms?
ఆయన బట్టలేం లేదు మా
Hello everyone, this is Megha Alvani. So I have went to some rural areas or urban areas to find out whether they know about malaria or not. The result is some people were aware about it and some didn't. So now I'm going to tell you about the malaria. What is malaria? Malaria is a life-threatening disease. It's transmitted through the bite of an infected Anopheles mosquito. Once the parasite bites you, the parasite is released into bloodstream. Then it travels to liver, where they mature. The parasite continues to infect red blood cells, resulting in symptoms that occur in cycles that last for 2 to 3 days at a time. How is it affected in world in India? According to WHO, nearly half of the world population lives in area at a risk of malaria transmission in 87 countries and territories. In 2019, malaria caused an estimated 229 million clinical episodes and 4,09,000 deaths. India represents 3% of global malaria burden. What causes malaria? Malaria can occur if a mosquito infected with the Plasmodium anopheles parasite. There are 4 kinds of malaria parasites: Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium ovale, Plasmodium malariae, and Plasmodium falciparum, which is the most severe form. Malaria is transmitted by blood, so it can also be transmitted through an organ transplant, transfusion, and use of shared needle and syringes. What are the symptoms of malaria?
Okay, so now I am telling about complications. Blood vessels of the brain or
Guys, kindly mute your voice. Guys, kindly.
and low blood sugar. Now, there is another factor of population. Population due to malaria, that is infants under 5 years of age pregnant women, and patients with HIV and AIDS, as well as non-immune migrants, and also mobile population and travel. Now, what are the treatments of malaria? So, malaria is treated with prescription drugs to kill the parasite. The types of drugs and the length of treatment will vary depending on the which type of malaria parasite you have, the severity of your symptoms, your age, and whether you are pregnant or not. Now, for the medications, the most common medications are anti-malarial drugs, include chloroquine phosphate, and chloroquine is the preferred treatment for any parasite that is sensitive to the drug. But in many parts of the world, parasites are resistant to chloroquine, and the drug is no longer an effective treatment. So the other common anti-malarial drugs include quinine sulfate, trimethoxam phosphate, and also etc. Prevention, long-term preventions. If you live in an area where malaria is common. Sleeping under a mosquito net may help prevent being bitten by an infected mosquito. Covering your skin or using bug sprays containing may also help prevent infection. For example, applying mosquito repellents, always using mosquito nets over the bed, wear long sleeves clothes that cover your arms and legs completely, screen your doors and window, especially during the evening time. And option to use fitted clothes instead of tight ones. Stay indoors during the evening, and you should also keep your fan on at night. So now, what are the precautions? Precautions for malaria. Avoid traveling to areas where a malaria outbreak, and special attention must be paid towards infants and young kids to ensure that the mosquito don't bite. Consult a doctor as soon as possible if you notice any malaria symptoms. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I appreciate you making your video and going out, but please safety first. Okay, that's why we are very lenient with this requirement for now. Okay, but I do appreciate that you went out and tried to interview people. Although I saw that you protected yourselves as well, so that's okay.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doctor.
This is on COVID.
Hello, my name is Akul, and today we are going to talk about COVID-19. COVID-19 means coronavirus disease 2019. Corona means crown related. So virus having crown on its membrane is known as coronavirus. Coronaviruses are a large family of viruses that cause illness ranging from common cold to pneumonia. This coronavirus disease is caused by SARS-CoV-2 virus. In December 2019, Wuhan city in China suddenly had some cases of pneumonia, which later identified as a new strain of coronavirus, which now is known as SARS-CoV-2. From Wuhan, it started spreading to other cities and later to other countries also. On January 2020, after seeing this situation, WHO initially declared it as a public health emergency of international concern. And later on 11/2020, WHO declared it as a pandemic.
WHO has been assessing this outbreak around the clock, and we're deeply concerned both by the alarming levels of spread and severity and by the alarming levels of inaction. We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
Its symptoms may appear 2 to 40 days after exposure to virus. So let's know the symptom of COVID-19. Fever, dry cough, loss of taste and smell, body ache, fatigue, sore throat are some common symptoms of COVID-19. Even some patients was also found asymptomatic, means they don't have symptoms, but they are positive for this disease and can act as a carrier who can separate virus to others. Let's show some alarming symptoms: shortness of breath, severe pain or pressure in chest, bluish lip, declining oxygen saturation below 94%. Please see your doctor if you are having any of these symptoms.
COVID-19 disease, which is caused by SARS-CoV virus, which is the disease transmission via air, via respiratory droplets to the infected persons. Coronavirus. So research is that the virus in the air kills and people present in the United States. One good factor between the infected person and uninfected person easily can get the virus. Other mode of transmission of coronavirus is a surface transmission. When the person touches the contaminated surface, it's there are other viruses in the reports. There are other reports that say that research has spread the virus even without any signs. So that is what causes it spread, and it's like the community spread. It's actually a very infection in which community spread individual first get the virus from an unknown person to a first person. So it's already in the community. So the next example of spread is India. Government study community and private spread is said by experts. So there is when people get elections and they have to put over the health system and they get the thousands of people in the case without any process. And that is more substantial in the whole world.
Management of COVID. The symptoms are mild, like fever, dry cough, tiredness, and without hypoxia, you can recover at home. You should take rest, it can make you feel better and may speed up your recovery. Stay home, don't go to work or public places. Drink fluid, you know more water than you. Dehydration can make symptoms worse and cause other health problems. Take vitamin C and zinc supplements to boost your immunity. Monitor temperature and oxygen saturation, follow physical distancing, use face masks, and isolate yourself in separate rooms. If your symptoms get worse, call your doctor right away. Ask your doctor about over-the-counter medicine that may help, like acetaminophen to lower your fever, and tablet of hydroxychloroquine, and tablet of vitamin C, antibiotics, azithromycin, plus amoxicillin. If the symptoms get severe, like age is greater than 60 years, respiratory rate is greater than 30 beats per minute, oxygen saturation less than 90% on low air, and BP less than 90 over 60 millimeter mercury, need urgent hospitalization and need for intensive care. Supplemental oxygen should be administered for patients with saturation of oxygen less than 92%. Once stabilized, the target of oxygen saturation range is 92 to 96%. The target will be lower in those with COPD, 88 to 92%. And non-breathing face mask, monitor chest X-ray, CBC, and CRP. Medical therapy like azithromycin as anti-inflammatory, heparin as anticoagulant, remdesivir 20 mg IV on day 1, followed by 100 mg IV once a day for 4 days, and tablet of hydroxychloroquine 400 mg once a day, followed by 200 mg once a day for 4 days.
Vaccination. By vaccinating today, you are bringing the world closer to tomorrow. When it brings us closer to a world where we can travel, protected together from threat of preventable disease. COVID-19 vaccine by them in India. There are 2 vaccines that have been granted emergency authorization by Central Drugs and Organization. They are 1. Covishield and 2. Coronavac. Technologies used in the vaccine. In Covishield vaccine, manufactured by Serum Institute of India with the viral vector
The complete schedule of COVID-19 vaccines to protect oneself against this disease and also limit the spread of the disease to the close contacts. Based on availability of vaccines, the government of India has selected the priority vaccinated of the priority as they are at high risk. Group 1 includes the healthcare and frontline workers. Group 2 includes persons over 60 years of age and persons between 49 and 59 years of age. In how many days the vaccination with an adequate immune
Charge naman ng bala ko.
adequate immune response takes 2 to 3 weeks after completion of entire vaccination scheme, that is, after the second dose of Covishield and Covaxin. Does this vaccine provide herd immunity? Then an increase in the people get vaccinated in community. In that case, the herd immunity develops. Vaccinated people who need to get in order to achieve herd immunity. Like side effects of the vaccine, pain, swelling, redness, tiredness, headache, chill, fever, nausea, and
COVID-19 prevention. Maintain at least a 1 meter distance between yourself and others to reduce your risk.
Okay, thank you. So you see the difference. Yes, they have text in their slides, but it is not a full-blown um, text slide such that it is easy to understand for the non-medical person, and it is not a straight out lecture. So I hope that you see the differences in the latter videos that you have seen. Okay.
African trypanosomiasis, African trypanosomiasis, also known as sleeping sickness, is caused by microscopic pattern of Trypanosoma cruzi. It is transmitted by the Plisclochina species, which is found only in sub-Saharan Africa. Two morphologically distinct species of the parasite cause distinct disease pattern in humans. Trypanosoma brucei cause a slowly progressing African trypanosomiasis in Western and Central Africa. African trypanosomiasis. He or she is bitten by a fly infected with the Trypanosoma brucei rodentsi or Trypanosoma brucei gangrensis parasite infected. The proportion of flies that are infected with these parasites is low. The fly is found only in rural Africa. Occasionally, an infected pregnant woman may pass the Trypanosoma brucei gangrensis infection to her baby. This picture shows the bitten by first. Other routes of transmission are possible through rare and poorly documented sexual transmission and organ transplantation. African trypanosomiasis is fatal if not treated. The life cycle. This life cycle of Trypanosoma brucei gambiensis or Trypanosoma brucei tolerans. The test play stages. Test play take a blood meal and in human states, injected metacyclic trypanomastoid transforms into blood stage. Which are carried to the other side. Stigmatomastoids multiplied by binary protein in various blood flows, like for example blood, lymph, and trypanosoma in blood. These lines take the blood milk from man, and they enter into the bloodstream of trypanosoma, transform into procyclic trypanomastoids in display medical. Procyclic trypanomastoids multiplied by binary protein. These procyclic trypanomastoids leave the medical and transforms into epimastoids. These epimastoids multiply in salivary gland and they transform into metacyclic trypanomastoids. Then it enters into the man. Symptoms. When Trypanosoma brucei infected this person, what are the symptoms? First stage symptoms includes fever, severe headaches, irritability, extreme fatigue, swollen lymph nodes, aching muscles, joints are common symptoms of sickness. Some of the people develop a skin rash. Second stage, stage 2 includes progressive confusion, personality changes, and other neurological problems occur after infection has invaded the central nervous system. Second stage. Clinical features. Characteristic hypnoderma brucei complaints and hypnoderma brucei rodents difference. Disease progression. This hypnoderma brucei complaints is slow. Hypnoderma brucei rodents is rapid. Stage 1 symptoms. Hypnoderma brucei complaints is fever, headache, malaise. Hypnoderma brucei rodents is fever, swollen lymph nodes. Time of CNS invasion. Hypnoderma disinfectant clothing and insect repellents have not been proved to be particularly effective against flies, but they will prevent other insect pests that can cause illness. There is no vaccination or drug to prevent disease because it is antigenic variation. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have time for two more. It's just sad that it's hard to hear the video, the audio of this last video. Otherwise, it would have had a lot of info to share. Any other group who would want to volunteer?
Group 4, ma'am.
22. Food safe. What group? What group wants to be next?
Group 4, ma'am.
Group 4, okay. After group 22.
Okay, ma'am.
Charger?
Food safety, group 22. Food science. This is a discipline concerned with all technical aspects. Such as boiling, frying, steaming, or grilling. Deep frying, baking, mixing, proofing, spray drying, and packing. Natural toxins. Natural toxins are toxic components that are naturally produced by living organisms. These toxins are not harmful to the organisms themselves, but they may be toxic to other creatures, including humans, when eaten. These chemical compounds have diverse structures and different biological function and toxicity. Some toxins are produced by plants as a natural defense mechanism against insects or microorganisms as a consequence of infestation with organisms, such as mold, in response to climate stress. Some natural toxins can be formed in your food as a defense mechanism of plants through their infestation with toxic-producing mold or through ingestion by animals or toxic-producing organisms. Natural toxins can cause a variety of aberrant health effects and pose a serious health threat to both humans and livestock. Some of these toxins are extremely potent. Hence, health effects can be acute poisoning, ranging from allergic reactions to severe stomachache and diarrhea, and even death. Some long-term health consequences include effects on the immune system, reproductive or nervous system, and also cancer. Cyanogenic glycosides or mycotoxins, which occurs in at least
2,000 plant spices. Official number of spices are used as food in some areas of the world. Cassava, stone fruits, bamboo roots, and almonds are especially important foods containing cyanogenic glycosides. Chemical contaminants. Industrial chemicals and cleaning products including detergents, sanitizers, and other chemical products. Agricultural chemicals include herbicides, pesticides, and fertilizers that may be present on fruits and vegetables. Toxic metals. Metal containing can occur when used in pots and pans, food containers, or utensils that have been manufactured using non-food grade materials that are suitable for the purpose for which they are being used. Using preservatives in the food to make it last longer and taste better. Adding too much preservatives to a food can be harmful to human health. Symptoms vary depending on chemicals consumed. Most illnesses occurs within minutes. Vomiting and diarrhea are typical. Food Safety Modernization Act, the FDA Food Safety Modernization Act is transforming the national food safety system by shifting the focus from responding to foodborne illness to preventing it. The Food Safety Modernization Act was signed into law by President Barack Obama on January 4, 2011. The FSMA has given the Food and Drug Administration new authorities to regulate the way foods are grown, harvested, and processed. Food safety rules in the kitchen rule. Rule 1. Wash hands between steps. Rule 2. Sanitize work surfaces. Rule 3. Use separate cutting boards for raw materials, vegetables, and cooked foods. Rule 4. Cook foods to safety temperature. Rule 5. Keep hot food hot and cold food cold. FSMA roundup and overview of the FDA's 7 major rules preventing control rules for human and animal food. Produce safety rule. Foreign supplier verification program. Accredited third-party certification. Sanitary transportation rule. Intentional adulteration rule. Complying with FSMA. Prevention. Chemical setting. Improved for use in food service operations. Store chemicals away from food storage areas and service areas. Never store chemicals above food or food content surface areas. Always wash fruits and vegetables. Even if the item has a thick skin, you are still in danger of transferring chemicals from the outside to the inside when you cut into the products. Use food grade plastic containers. Sanitation quality standards. The food industry is a massive operation that affects the global community through food production. Food is necessary for all people, though regulation must be maintained to ensure that customers are enjoying food, quality foods that are safe. Preventing foodborne illness. Because foodborne illness can be spread by unclean or sick stuff. Maintaining personal hygiene is inseparable from food safety measurement. Many foodborne illnesses causing pathogens are spread from humans. With proper personal hygiene, the risk of foodborne illness is significantly reduced. Hand hygiene. In most cases of food production, food exchanges hands multiple times before being enjoyed by consumers. And our hands are perfect carriers for many sources of foodborne illnesses. Preventive food safety systems. HACCP can be part of GMP and is a systemic program to ensure food safety. HACCP is the recommended approach to control the possibility of allergen contamination. It addresses physical, chemical, and biological hazards as a main means of prevention rather than finished product inspection. This approach has significant benefits to organizations operating with the food safety chains. It enables them to determine key controls over processes and concentrate resources on activities. They are critical to ensure food safety. Clean and sanitize food handling equipment after every use. Use cleaning and sanitation chemicals according to ensure chemicals and cleaning equipment separate from food and utensils. Thank you.
Okay. I think we will have our last group. That is group 4.
Hi, this is Seth Samnani from Group 4. Our group will be discussing about air safety in relationship with lung diseases. Air safety is a key part of environmental health and plays a comprehensive role in public health systems. Public health is really about protecting population's rights. Air pollution in specific. Air pollution is undoubtedly the most problematic type of pollution as it may involve serious long-term health effects. The air population affects our health in a variety of ways. The interaction between human health and air population have been extensively studied, and environmental risks have been proven to significantly impact human health, either directly by exposing people to harmful agents or indirectly by disrupting life-sustaining ecosystems.
I am talking about diseases caused by air pollution. Major sources of pollution are all around us, from power plants to manufacturing facilities to vehicle we drive. Air pollution leads to environmental damages, but it can also harm the health of the people. There are many diseases caused by air pollution. One of them is COPD. COPD refers to not a single disease but multiple diseases which makes difficult to breathe. These diseases include bronchitis and emphysema, and both conditions can caused by damages to the lung from the air pollutants. COPD, although preventable and treatable, but currently not curable. Thus, primary prevention of COPD, critical action for public health. Another one is acute lower respiratory infection, often manifest as pneumonia. Children are especially vulnerable to the acute lower respiratory infection because their bodies and lungs are still developing and pollution hit them harder than the adults.
Ischemic stroke, which can occur when the blood supply of the brain is cut off and lead to death or damage. Air pollutants air pollutant has been linked with the stroke. In households, air pollution was more important risk factor for the stroke. Lung cancer. Uncontrolled division of the cell in the lungs can lead lung cancer. It also associated with the air pollution, especially particulates matter and secondhand smoke.
People living in bad air conditions or in conditions where there is high air pollution may experience irritation of the airways, eyes, nose, and dry throat, and coughing or difficulty in breathing may also be seen. Wheezing can also be seen in patients with blocked or inflamed airways. Reduction in oxygen carrying capacity and malfunctioning in the complete working of the respiratory system is also observed. In some cases, chest pain, headache, or nausea is also observed. People experiencing these signs and symptoms must consult their doctor and start the treatment immediately.
Hello everyone. So now we are going to discuss about what should we do and what should not be done by us to keep the air safe. The first and the easiest way is to plant more and more trees and to decrease the cutting down of trees which are existing. See, even I understand that there are many people who are homeless, but that does not mean that you will make infrastructure for the employment and the homes for them wherever you want. It should have a proper plan in your mind that goes in a way that these trees are going to be cut down. Also, we should not install the industries which are nearby any residential areas, and also should not burn the material or things which are made of rubber or plastic. We should use vehicles which run on batteries if you want to go a long way, and if you want to go nearby, just go by walking or use bicycles. And also we should avoid using the vehicles which we are using from so many years, because that can produce the smoke which affected the natural percentage of gases in the air.
Hi, myself Sani Bhavani, and I'm going to discuss about the preventive measures. So, to cope up with the COPD, we should avoid using the cigarette, the cigar, the pipes, also as well as avoid dust and powders. To cope up with ischemic heart disease, limit the use of fireplaces and wood stoves. While using this appliance, make sure the wood is properly burned. Now, to cope up with lung cancer, stop smoking, stop carcinogens, and eat a diet full of vegetables and fruits. Now, to cope up with acute respiratory illness in children, the parents' education is must. Also, active immunization strategies and use of immunoactive agents like bronchovaccine. Thank you.
Treatment for air qualitative COPD, bronchodilators, steroid, oxygen therapy, diaphragmatic breathing, quitting smoking. For lung cancer, do not smoke, chemotherapy, targeted therapy, surgery, pulmonary lobectomy, and bed resection. Then for ischemic stroke, antiphase, H inhibitors, antihypertensive drugs, and anticoagulants and statins. We give cardiac monitoring and carotid endoarthrotomy surgery. Then lastly, acute respiratory areas, NSAIDs, acetaminophen, ibuprofen, antihistamine, and steroids.
Moving on to prognosis for COPD and lower respiratory tract infections. Along with medication, you may have to quit smoking, get vaccination like flu vaccine and pneumococcal vaccine every year, and pulmonary rehabilitation centers, which includes breathing techniques would help. COPD reduces the amount of oxygen in your blood, and you may use supplemental oxygen using machines to get enough oxygen supply to your body. Eating healthy foods and exercising would also help. If the treatment doesn't work or has no effect, lung transplantation surgery is recommended. For the ischemic stroke, rehabilitation is often necessary to regain motor skills and coordination. Occupational physical and speech therapy might also be helpful to regain other lung functions. Younger people and people who start improving quickly are likely to have good prognosis. For the lung cancer, many people with lung cancer experience shortness of breath at some point. Therefore, it is highly recommended to cope with shortness of breath with supplemental oxygen and medication. Complementary and alternative treatment combined with doctor's care are useful to help relieve signs and symptoms. Patients may find comfort in acupuncture, hypnosis, massage, meditation, and yoga. Coping and support is helpful as diagnosis of cancer is very overwhelming. Keeping family and friends close and finding someone to talk with is useful. 5-year survival rate for cancer is 56% for cases in which disease is still localized in lungs. This ends our presentation about air pollution related with lung diseases.
So we have seen different public health videos that you have done. Okay, in the light that it's pandemic and you are far away from each other, I do appreciate that you tried your best to come up with an output, especially in the recent um, outbreak and increase of cases that's happening in India. I know that it is not 100% on your minds, but still you exerted effort. Okay, our last requirement would be your final exam, which we will have on Tuesday. So it's all topics for the year that were discussed um, will be the coverage of the exam. All right. Are there any questions for this activity?
No, doctor.
Video, please, group 1. Are you still up for one more? Group 1 is requesting. Sorry, I read the chat late. Let's just see what they have.
Ma'am, group 19.
Group 19.
Ma'am, group 15 also, ma'am.
Ma'am, group 20.
Are you willing to extend a bit? For those who want to stay, you're welcome. For those who want to go, it's also fine by me. Don't forget to fill up the MS forms.
In this segment, our best journalists will interview world-renowned doctors about HIV, its transmission, and the stigma associated with it.
So what are we waiting for? Let's go to Aisha, who will be interviewing Dr. Harko today.
I'm a person with red ribbon on his shirt. What does it signify?
The red ribbon is the universal symbol of awareness and support for people living with HIV.
Doctor, what is HIV?
HIV is a virus that attacks the body's immune system. If HIV is not treated, it can lead to AIDS. AIDS is diagnosed when a CD4 count is extremely low and is the most severe form of HIV infection. It badly damages the body's immune system and can lead to infection.
Doctor, how do cases of HIV progress?
Stage 1, acute stage, the first few weeks after transmission. Stage 2, clinical latency of chronic stage. Stage 3, AIDS.
Thank you, Aisha and Dr. Hilka, for sharing such valuable information. I did not know that HIV had stages where there were no signs and symptoms. Holly, did you know about this?
No, I didn't. The next step,
That is true.
Let's go to Hina, who was interviewed Dr. Taylor on the matter of HIV transmission. People have many misconceptions about the transmission of HIV. Let's ask Doctor about how HIV is actually spread.
HIV does not spread how people actually perceive it to be. You can only get HIV by coming into direct contact with certain body fluids from a person with HIV who has a detectable viral load. These fluids can be blood, semen, and pre-seminal fluids, and breast milk. So for transmission to occur, the HIV in these fluids must get into the bloodstream of an HIV-negative person through a mucous membrane of the body, or open cuts, sores, or by a direct injection. HIV can spread from a person to person by having vaginal or anal sex with someone who have HIV without using a condom, by sharing injection drug equipment for breastfeeding, or by receiving blood transfusion or organ transplant, or by bitten by a person who has HIV, but does not happen if the skin is not breaking. However, many people are not aware that HIV does not spread through saliva, tears, or sweat, mosquito bite, or by hugging, shaking hands, or sharing toilet seats, and sharing dishes, or closed mouth, or social kissing.
Thank you, Dr. Tarun, for sharing your knowledge on the transmission of the disease. Let's head out to Sushmita, who is eagerly waiting to start our interview.
HIV-related stigma and discrimination refers to prejudice, negative attitudes, and abuse directed at people living with HIV and AIDS. Here with me is Dr. Anand, who will help us understand more about this issue. Hello, Doc. My first question to you is, why is there stigma around HIV and AIDS?
Back in the 1980s, the stigma around HIV and AIDS arose, persisting till date. The little knowledge about how HIV is transmitted made people scared of those infected due to the fear of spread. The false beliefs about HIV and AIDS also contributed to this, such as its association with death, behaviors that some people disapprove of, such as homosexuality, drug use, sex work, or infidelity. Its only transmission is through sex, which is a taboo subject in most cultures, and it is the result of personal irresponsibility or moral fault, such as infidelity, that deserves to be punished.
So what do you think of the different forms of stigma existing today?
Firstly, people with HIV have self or internalized stigma where they judge themselves negatively, leading to shame, worthlessness, and blame, which deeply affects a person's ability to live positively. The community and household also play a negative role, forcing people with HIV to leave their homes. This isolation and this social rejection can lead to low self-esteem, depression, and even thoughts or acts of suicide. Even in the workplace, they go through social isolation and ridicule, and even experience discriminatory practices such as termination or refusal of employment.
So how can we put an end to this?
We protect, empower, educate, and include the HIV affected. Dr. Anna declared the reality right there. Most people do have breathing stigma, but they are close to the prejudice.
I completely agree with India. After all we have heard today, I wonder if people with HIV could lead normal lives.
Right? To paint a clearer picture, let's head out to Yafi, who is interviewing Dr. Antidote.
So doctor, can you please tell me how does a person with HIV go about living? Having HIV doesn't have to stop you from living a healthy life in the way you wish to do so. With the right treatment and care, you can expect to live as long as someone who doesn't have HIV. What are the measures a person needs to be aware of being HIV positive? Here are a few ways of living healthy with HIV. Taking anti-retroviral treatment. Anti-retroviral treatment is not a cure for HIV, but it does keep the virus under control and also helps preventing infections. Eating healthy, exercising regularly, and avoid excessive alcohol or drug use. How about dealing with social discrimination? Finding out you have HIV can be a shock, and it may take you some time to adjust. Talking to your friends and family and a care group can really help you when things get difficult. People with HIV have the same rights to medical treatment and services as any other person. It's great news that we could live normal life.
That is true, Narayanaki. But I strongly believe prevention is better than cure.
Safe sex practices and getting yourself and your partner tested, along with the awareness of drug abuse, would prove to be vital to stop the spread of HIV.
Along with that, safe hospital protocols, if followed along with timely treatment, would ensure that healthcare workers as well as military child transmission will also be decreased.
But since the definition of health also includes mental and social well-being as well, we need to enforce the importance of preserving human dignity and respecting those with HIV. They did not ask to get infected, but are being labeled as such.
No one has to be unintentionally careless, but I don't act as a type their entire life. So the least we could do is ensure that we spread the message of safe sexual practices as well as to stop the progression of the disease so that the patient could enjoy the good quality of life.
Agreed. Let's all make pledge and join forces and promise to
stop the stigma.
Okay. What's your video source, or were you the ones who made the video?
Doctor, we use an animation app and drew it up.
So you were the ones who made the video using an
Yes,
app?
po.
Very good.
Yes.
I couldn't come up with that kind of output. It's not one of my strengths. So, message was clear. Stop stigma of HIV. Let's see, group 19.
Thank you
Who's
po.
the other, group 1 wants to volunteer?
Hi, this is Noor Mohammed Taha, and
Group
today I will
22.
do demonstration on awareness of sanitation and
The
hygiene.
group 20 also, doctor.
15, ma'am.
Deaths and illness. So the purpose of this video module is to promote the hygiene and sanitation concepts in order to prevent disease in the community. So what basically is sanitation? It's the process of keeping places free from dirt and infection by removing waste, trash, by
Food sanitation is the practice of following certain rules and procedures to prevent the contamination of food and keeping it safe to eat. In these pictures, you can see that the roadside vendors do not cover their food items, which attract flies and germs. It can cause foodborne diseases due to the ease of contamination. Poor food hygiene practice will lead to those consuming the food to become severely ill, most likely with food poisoning. In this video, we see that the food that are served to the customers are clean and safe. So we should make cleanliness a part and habit in our daily life.
So messy. Don't you know cleanliness is very important? No, I don't want you to say that you will do in a bit. If you don't do this in 10 minutes, then your cleanliness will be taken away. Yes. Look at the room, how nice it looks. You could have cleaned the room first and only. Now you can play the game as much as you can. Why did I ask him to clean his room? As we all see in the video, his room is very dirty and messy, and instead of arranging his room, he's playing games. Cleaning his room makes his surroundings a better place in which he can work or play, which will automatically make him happy. He will be in good state of mind, which will further help him with his mental and social health. We all should, as a part of community, do little things which make a surrounding a better place to live in. As in today's COVID world, cleanliness and personal hygiene are very important and essential for everyone. I'm going to go first of all, I'm going to take it back further in my bed. I already take the tap water in my hand. Now I'm going to boil this water. As you can see, water is getting boiled. CDC recommend boiling boiled water for 1 minute. Now this water boiling. As you can see, water is cooled down. Now I'm going to drink this water. This water is from certain viruses, protozoa, bacteria. This water is for drinking. There are steps we need to be taken to stop the spread
home, you have to go out or you went for it. For hand washing, if you are on the go, wash your hand with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If water isn't available, use hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. For cleanliness, clean and disinfect frequently touch objects and surfaces. Remove dirt and grime before you disinfect and make sure you let the surface get dry. For sneezing and cough, one cup into your elbow or in a tissue. For post sanitization, wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water for at in a dustbin. After such disposal, proper hand hygiene should be performed. Mask and PPE may clog the riverways and the waterways that result in a human and broader ecological impact. For water sanitization, places where centralized water treatment are not available, a number of household water treatment technologies are effective in removing or destroying viruses. It includes boiling water, ultraviolet radiation, and solar radiation, etc.
Okay.
Dr. Group 20.
If you could just imagine, disposable mask, if you are just to use one per day. In India, if there's 1 billion people, there's at least 1 billion disposable face mask as waste produced per day. And how much is this per year? 365 billion masks per year. This is converted to tons. So it's also a pressing problem, aside from your COVID, this waste production pandemic that we will be facing, that we are facing right now. Group 20, where's you?
Yes, doctor. Yes.
Okay, let's see, diabetes mellitus. I appreciate also them trying to show etiquette, hygiene etiquette. I do hope that you are still COVID free. Again, protect yourself. I know it's a requirement, but protect yourself still.
Diabetes mellitus has known to have affected 62 million Indian population, which is roughly 7.2% of the adult population. To talk about the definition of diabetes mellitus is commonly known as diabetes, is a metabolic disorder characterized by high glucose levels over a prolonged period of time. To talk about the pathophysiology, let me call upon my group mate, Chaitanya Murarka. What is the pathophysiology of diabetes mellitus? Diabetes mellitus is a syndrome, disorder of metabolism and inappropriate hypoglycemia due to the deficiency of insulin secretion, heart rate function of insulin resistance. Diabetes mellitus is categorized into type 1 and type 2. Type 1 diabetes is due to the pancreatic cell destruction, predominantly by an autoimmune causes, and the presence of ketoacidosis. Whereas in type 2, it results from an insulin resistance with a defect in compensatory insulin secretion. Suppose in a case where the amount of insulin available is insufficient, the glucose will not be absorbed properly into the body cells. It results in a high level of blood glucose. It results in liposis. Explain the diabetes mellitus signs. So first is polyuria. Polyuria is excessive urine, polydipsia, and excessive thirst, unexplained weight loss, extreme hunger, myopia, blood vision, tingling or numbness in the hands, feeling very tired most of the time, very dry skin, sores that are slow moving, more infection than usual, or the two types of diabetes can have very similar symptoms. If the blood glucose is significantly elevated, the symptoms of high blood glucose is elevated. When the blood glucose level is over 160 glucose spills into the urine. When the level of glucose in the urine rises even higher, the kidney expends additional water to dilute the larger amount of glucose. Because the kidney produces excess urine, is previously known as insulin-dependent diabetes mellitus or juvenile diabetes. Lastly, we have type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes initiates the insulin resistance, a condition in which the cells of the body does not respond to insulin properly. As the disease progresses, there is a lack of insulin in the body. This condition was previously known as non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus or adult onset diabetes mellitus. So, some of the causes that lead to type 2 diabetes mellitus are insufficient exercise, which causes diabetes, and finally we have certain drugs or drugs
overweight, excess, who have sedentary lifestyle, who have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and who have cardiac arrhythmia and have history of diabetes. So, so pepper often creation and that is the reason that is the level. The person who have body mass or higher risk of having diabetes, people who are older than